Hello there, Ruby here. I am ever so thankful you joined me today for Ruby's story time. This is the story of Little Red Riding Hood, and it gets scary at times. So if I were you, I would get your favorite blanket to snuggle up with, and maybe even one of your stuffed animals to comfort you. There are some moments that can get, well, a little frightening, but don't you worry. It's just a story, and let me assure you, you will be just fine. Are you ready, my friend? Let's begin. Once upon a time, there was a darling little girl named Sarah. She lived with her mother in a cabin near the woods. Her mother enjoyed sewing for Sarah. She made a beautiful red cape for her, and let me tell you something. Little Sarah loved that red cape. She ate with the red cape on. She picked vegetables from the garden with the red cape on. She played in her treehouse with the red cape on. And she even slept in the red cape. She never wanted to part with her red cape, and her mother finally said, "Sarah, I think we should call you Little Red Riding Hood from now on." And from that day on, Sarah had a new name. Little Red Riding Hood was in her treehouse playing tea party with her stuffed animals and dolls, and heard her mom call to her, "Little Red Riding Hood, please come down. We need to have a talk." Little Red Riding Hood could hear in her mother's voice something was bothering her. "What's the matter, Mother?" Little Red Riding Hood asked. "I need you to walk through the woods, over to your grandmother's house. She's not feeling well. I have made some fresh chocolate chip cookies, and I think that little treat will cheer her up." This made Little Red Riding Hood smile, as she always looked forward to seeing her grandmother, the sweetest little lady that lived in a small cottage in the woods, and they loved each other dearly. Do you have a grandmother? Let's get back to the story. So, the mother made sure to give Little Red Riding Hood the basket of goodies and reminded her, "Please, stay focused. And remember, stay on the path, go right to grandmother's house, and never talk to strangers." So off Little Red Riding Hood went. She wasn't afraid, as she had made the trip to grandmother's house many times. She walked and walked through the woods. Little did she know, she was being followed by a very scary wolf. Every step Little Red Riding Hood would take, the wolf would take 2 steps closer to her. "Good morning, little girl," said the big bad wolf. "You look so pretty in your red little hood."
"Oh, thank you, Mr. Wolf. My mother made it for me."
Oh no. Do you remember what her mother told her before taking the journey to Grandma's house? She said never to talk to strangers, didn't she?
"Goodbye, Mr. Wolf. I'm going to my grandma's house. She's not feeling very well, and my mom made her some chocolate chip cookies, and I'm going to go cheer her up. Toodles!"
And off the little girl went, walking down the path. The wolf had his eye on her the entire time, and you know what? That big bad wolf said to himself, "That little girl looks like she would make a scrumptious meal for me. Why, if I had her for lunch, I wouldn't need to eat anything for quite some time." But the wolf didn't stop there. He stopped her again as she continued to walk. "Oh, Little Red Riding Hood, I noticed that if you get off the path just a bit, you will find some beautiful wildflowers. And wouldn't your grandma just love to have some pretty flowers?"
"Oh, yes, Mr. Wolf," said the little girl. "Flowers will really cheer my grandma up."
And the big bad wolf gently shoved her off the path. While she was busy picking the flowers for her grandma, the wolf, as sneaky as he was, said to himself, "I will run over to Grandma's house and eat her up first. And then I will hide in the house and wait for Little Red Riding Hood to come in, and I will eat her up too. What a very hungry, bad, wicked wolf! He finally arrived at Grandmother's house, and he knocked on the door. "Who's there?" called the grandmother from her bed.
"It's me, Little Red Riding Hood,"
said the wolf in a tiny voice.
"I have brought you some chocolate chip cookies to cheer you up."
"Oh, my dear child, the door is unlocked. Just come on in. I am feeling too weak to get up and open the door." Well, here's where the story gets very scary. The wolf came barging in so fast, growling with his big sharp teeth, and he gobbled up the grandmother. Oh my! He quickly put on a nightgown, disguising himself as the grandmother, and he hopped in her bed, waiting for precious Little Red Riding Hood to come in. In the meantime, Little Red Riding Hood was able to pick the most beautiful flowers for her grandma, and she was almost to the house. When she finally arrived to the house, she felt a little afraid. She noticed the front door was open.
"Grandma? Grandma?"
She walked in the house and into her grandmother's room. The wolf said, "Oh, my dear, don't turn the light on. I am very sick, and the light gives me a headache. Just bring your cute little self over here and let me give you a hug."
"Oh, Grandma, I'm here with cookies and flowers to cheer you up."
Little Red Riding Hood came close to hug her and could just barely see her ears.
"Wow! What big ears you have grown, Grandma."
"The better to hear you with, my dear." Even though it was dark, her eyes were just adjusting to the room.
"Grandma, what big eyes you have."
"The better to see you with, my dear."
"Grandma, open up your mouth. I will feed you a cookie." "Oh, Grandma, what big teeth you have."
And then, at that time, the wolf sat up and screamed, "The better to eat you with." Little Red Riding Hood was so scared. She screamed and cried, "No, no, no!" And she ran out of the house as fast as she could. She ran over to a tent and noticed that there was a forest ranger sitting by a fire. She told him of this dreadful situation, and the forest ranger said, "Let me take a look." So he went into the house and noticed the wolf lying in bed, trying to be all sneaky. "Did you gobble up the Little Red Riding Hood's grandma?" In a loud voice, he demanded the wolf to spit the grandma out right this instant. The wolf cried, "Not by the hair of my chinny chin chin!" The forest ranger punched him right smack in the nose and pulled his tail, and the wolf spit the grandma out. Whew! Don't you worry. The grandma wasn't harmed. She was just fine. But did she ever have a story to tell? Little Red Riding Hood and Grandma enjoyed some cookies and milk before she had to walk back home. As she walked home, she thought to herself,
"I will never wander off the path that I have been given, ever, ever, ever again."
Thank you for joining me here on Family Roberto. I hope you enjoyed the story of Little Red Riding Hood. And remember, always stay focused on what you are supposed to be doing and never, ever talk to strangers. Until next time, bye friends.